Hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays. We talk about nature while playing games. Today we're doing something different. We're playing a bit of FLOTSAM, which just released recently into version 1.0. It's developed by the team over at Pajama Llama and it is published by Stray Fawn Publishing. I just want to thank them for sending me a key to try out this amazing game. I am having a blast in it. Right, so without any further ado, let's actually jump right into it. It is a different game. It is a city builder of sorts, but your city floats on the waters, and it's going to be very interesting to try and build a floating city. So think Waterworld, but I think without the combat of Waterworld. So let's jump right in. Let's set up a new game, and you can re-roll your starting crew. We're going to stay with these three. So we've got Buddy Abaze, which was a plumber but is now a sponge guzzler. And we've got Wet Feet, which used to be a water driller but is now a satellite disher. And then we've got the Captain, who used to be a pond drainer and is now a ghost ship hunter. Well, what a lovely crew. So let's confirm our crew here. And as it turns out, we are in a post-apocalyptic world. Our village has been washed away. I guess the sea levels rose. The whole world has been flooded. But we are on a ship, and we can expand our ship to basically become a massive city. Of course, while we are trying to rebuild our civilization, we are going to try to do it in as ecologically friendly manner as possible, so not at the expense of the environment. But we've got to christen our town. Let's not call it Shark Haven. Let's call it Gulltopia, because I guess we're going to have a lot of gulls eventually, and it's kind of our utopia. And one thing we are going to do is we are going to collect a lot of this garbage that is floating around all over the show. So if you look at the map around here, we can move our ship up and down, up and down. We are here right next to a pile of garbage that is floating in the water here. And yeah, garbage like this, floating garbage, does accumulate like this. It's where ocean currents bring garbage, and then there's something that happens to the currents and the garbage gets left behind. Like with the Great Atlantic Garbage Patch. And we are going to send our little survivors to come and collect this garbage here. Of course, we can also speed up time, and that is what we are going to do while we are waiting for them to bring the plastic junk. Now, we are collecting two types of plastic here, the plastic waste and the floaters. And the plastic waste here can be refined into floaters, and we use it to construct some new buildings. And there they go, going to collect the last two pieces of plastic. We can start building our walkway in that case, so let's build it. And we're going to try and have a kind of an, not aerodynamic, but kind of a streamlined shape. There we go, that's the term I was looking for, streamlined. So we're going to have these two little wings coming out from our ship. We're not going to build big, we're not going to build fast, we're going to build slow and steady and beautiful as we can possibly make it. Now looking at our map here, yeah, we can go to the north here and actually get some wood. So let's go salvage some timber up here. So let's get some driftwood up here. We're going to pull up right next to it, and there we go. We've got some timber, we've got some driftwood over here. Now we can collect all this. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to do with the natural resources. So with the driftwood as well as with the plants, the algae we can harvest, I'm going to leave some behind. And that is to help sustain the ecosystem processes. Because yes, the logs here, I mean, they come from land, but it's still natural for timber, for logs like these during floods to wash into the ocean from rivers and from the terrestrial environment, especially from the riparian zone, which is the zone right around water bodies, rivers, lakes, wetlands, those types of things. The plants that generally grow right next to the water. When there's a big flood, those plants get washed out into the ocean, and now they are in the marine environment. And things like goose barnacles will attach themselves to this. Things like shipworm will drill into this, because before there were wooden ships to drill into, they were drilling into logs, washing into the ocean. So these are important points of attachment for a lot of organisms, as well as habitats for smaller fish and all kinds of little smaller creatures that want to shelter among branches, amongst things drifting in the ocean. So we're going to leave some of the logs here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our harvesting node here, and of the 15, we're going to set it that we're only going to harvest, let's say, half of it. So 8 of the 15 pieces of wood that we can harvest, we are going to harvest. And let's actually say that everybody comes to harvest here, get it done as quickly as possible. Alright, that is done. Let's go harvest some more plastic over here and then over there as well. And then we'll have a look and see whether there's anything perhaps further to the north on the map. And there we go, let's go harvest some more plastic. Also going to just expand our walkways here. These function like streets, allowing the drifters to actually run around and do stuff. We also do then need a plastic workshop, so we're going to set that up right over here. Yeah, right over here. We're going to increase our storage as well. Ooh, we do have a big whale-like creature swimming around here as well. So I call these the tusked whales because of these two prominent tusks standing out right in the back of the mouth here. Also quite a few teeth in front there that you can see, but I don't call this a toothed whale because, well, we do have toothed whales on Earth as well. And things like sperm whales would be your typical toothed whales. We also have things called beaked whales, which are little cetaceans with kind of these little tusks, but not as big as with a tusked whale over here. Now, what this tusked whale feeds on, I'm going to guess it feeds on things falling in the water. So this isn't a safe creature, I think, to actually go and swim around with. But it is an awesome creature. But I think it most likely is a predator. Maybe it hunts squid, very similar to sperm whales, although the general look here reminds me more of something like a humpback whale or something along those lines. I mean, look at those big flippers there. Yeah, that is, to me at least, very similar to humpback whale. Humpback whale, the genus name is Megaptera, which means, well, mega is massive or big, and ptera is wing, so it's big wing. Anyway, we are going to just carry on here with our little boat. We're heading to the east up here. We're basically looking for land now. We want to either find survivors. Oh, there's algae. We can harvest some algae there as well. We're trying to find survivors. We're trying to find a few extra resources because we do need to build some houses for our drifters. So let's get to work on that. Let's set 2 people to collect resources there. Let's see, can we build houses yet? Not yet. We need more floaters and we need wooden planks. Let's just create some more floaters here, which we're going to need to build those things. The reason I'm harvesting all the plastics here is because the longer they are in the ocean like this and exposed to the sunlight, the more they degrade and release smaller plastics into the world. Unfortunately, yeah, it also does that while we are using it here. So in terms of that, it's not, ecologically friendly for us to build our entire city out of plastic. But it does remove it from circulation like it is here, because things like plastic bags will be swallowed by sea turtles when they mistake them for things like jellyfish, which they generally feed on, which some species like the leatherback turtle will feed on. Also, things like albatrosses and seabirds out in the open ocean, well, their stomachs are filled with small pieces of plastic because they mistake them for fish that they can feed on. So we're removing the plastic junk from circulation so that instead of drifting around the ocean where it can be eaten by animals, it is now stuck and fixed in our structure over here in our city. And it's hopefully not going anywhere. Unless we have massive storms and break pieces off, hopefully none of the plastic here actually ends up in the ocean, at least not in big pieces. Microplastics, unfortunately, will still be a problem. And here we have one of our drifters making our floaters here, thankfully, or finally. One brings the plastic waste and the other one makes the plastic, makes the floaters. And these floaters we can now use to eventually, hopefully, create the manual dryer, which we can use to dry the wet wood we collect. There we go, so we're going to place that down over there. Alright, let's actually make our way over here, collect some wood and collect some algae as well. While one person is making the floaters, one person is building, the other one is generating power over here. But the manual dryer is done, so let's actually collect some food, shall we? Again, just instead of collecting all 20 pieces of algae, let's collect 10 like that. There we go. Now, the algae we see here and that we are gathering now would most likely be a species of sargassum. It does appear to be so. Now, we've got many sargassum species on Earth. Some of them are fixed to rocks in the rock pools and so, for example. I have seen sargassum, but some of them are what we call pelagic, or they live out in the open ocean. And in this case, they are floating on the water surface. They've got gas-filled structures which allows them to actually float on the water surface, and they are incredibly important habitats for many species. Even things like loggerhead sea turtles, their young ones, the hatchlings, may use sargassum as a refuge to protect them against predators. So it is very important in the ecosystem, and therefore we are not going to gather all of it. Some species are eaten, especially in Chile and in Japan, but it may contain high levels of arsenic, so you don't want to overdo it. And there we go, our little guys, our little drifters are going out collecting some seaweed for food. So initially what we are doing is we're just doing a bit of a cleanup, removing all of the plastic we can find, removing some of the driftwood we can find, and then just kind of expanding our town a bit. Okay, we're heading into a new area here. Let's see. Ah, yes, there's a scouting landmark. So we should be able to head there and actually find out where there are more things for us to harvest. And maybe even another survivor. Now, every now and again you get these islands here. We can also collect some dead trees, and we are going to collect just again half, or try to get half of the timber here. There are 14 on here. We're going to just try to get 7 And again, the reason we are not gathering all of it is to leave some of the very important habitat behind, because a lot of beetle species will be drilling into the dead wood here. It's habitats and sources of food for a variety of organisms. And if you've got beetle larvae living in the wood here, you can have woodpeckers coming to feed on here as well. Now, sure, these little islands are few and far between, but birds can fly between islands, so that's fine. They should be able to make the journey across from one little island to the next. Okay, so there used to be at least a forest lookout tower. Let's scout the region here. Aha, there we go. There may in fact be another survivor. Let's have a look. Ah, up there. So now that we have used the lookout tower here, this forest lookout tower, you can see we have uncovered a large part of the map, which is wonderful. Gives us an idea of where we can go next to get some food, to collect some timber, to get some more plastic, and also potentially to salvage some food. There was a town over here, so let's go and salvage what we can from there. Also another lookout there, a withered windmill. You know, tall structures like this, very useful to scout the area. Now on the way to town, we're just going to collect some more sargassum. And the sargassum here, with us just harvesting half of it, well, it will be able to recover quite quickly, especially if there is a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus in the water here, because they need nutrients suspended in the water for them to grow and reproduce. And that has been one of the things that, in the past at least, limited their spread and their abundance, the amount of nutrients suspended in the water. But as more nutrients wash into the ocean from the Amazon River, for example, and into the Gulf of Mexico, well, sargassum does better. And as a result, large areas are covered with sargassum that didn't used to be covered with sargassum, at least not as much as it is covered now. Okay, so it seems we just missed the survivor. They were here, but they're not here anymore. And most likely they're looking for food or water somewhere. But from these inhabited islands, we are going to take the furniture, we're going to take the tinder. Let's not take the furniture. Okay, let's just take some of the tinder. We're just going to take that. I'm not sure whether this drifter wants to come back to his spot, but yeah, we've taken the tinder. And here we go, we finally have enough resources to build a sawmill, so we can make wooden planks as well. I must say, there are many things I like about this game. The setting, the way you build, the whole idea of it, and the art style. I mean, this is so cute. I love this. This is absolutely stunning. So well done to the developers for making such a very, very nice game. Now, there are two things we desperately need. The first is a desalination plant, so the desalinator, which will allow us to actually make water, very important. And then we also need to make the salad spinner here, which will allow us to take the sargassum we harvest and actually change it into food. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to first scout this region. We're also going to just grab some furniture and plastic junk here. Alright, so there are some overgrown potato fields way to the southeast, which we can go and collect. Also a little bit closer to us, there are also some potato fields over there, so we may as well go and collect those ones to our southeast. But first, let's raid the supermarkets. Oh, movement in the supermarket. We may have found a survivor. Yes, Eily Hopper is her name. So we can get Eily Hopper over here to join us, or we can tell her sorry no, but you know, let's get one extra person. This is going to be good for the morale of our crew, as well as to salvage things and make things more easily. Let's scavenge some food here as well. And we've got our desalinator running now, and the idea being that you use dry wood to actually make a fire. Not sure why they're using a plastic container to cook the water, because that's going to, first of all, melt potentially, but also just leach a whole bunch of chemicals into the water, which you don't want. But anyway, our little survivors, they're not that survival savvy, I guess. So what you do is you boil the water. In this case, it is salt water, and the idea then being that you have steam being produced. So water vapor, it rises, it condenses at the top here and goes into this tube here, and as you evaporate water, salt gets left behind. Salt does not evaporate, so it's just water and the pollutants in it that evaporates and then condensates at the top and actually drips down. So you are constantly producing water without salt. So it's quite cool. We are making fresh water by boiling a lot of seawater. We can also make some salads here by taking the sargassum and actually spinning it around, so making it a salad in essence. There we go, we've got a bunch of sargassum being tossed in there, and now it will be spun around. There we go, vroom vroom. I'm not sure what the idea here is, whether it is to remove the moisture, or maybe to remove any bugs and stuff living within it, so any of the creatures that usually call sargassum home, maybe it is to remove those, and you're just left with some sargassum to eat. Ah, we found a hardware store and we can get some chopping tools as well as precision tools. And you know what? Let's take some demolition tools as well. Let's take all the tools we can possibly can. And here we go, the first sign of agriculture. Some potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. We've got a bunch of taters over here. So yeah, you can see it's kind of an overgrown field. They haven't been harvested in a while. Of course, the potato plant, they use the potatoes to actually store starches. Okay, so to store resources during normal photosynthesis, they produce a lot of sugars. Those sugars then they store for the lean times or for future use, and they store it in these tubers. And if you don't harvest the potatoes, like has happened here in the overgrown potato field, those tubers, each of those tubers can actually regrow and potentially form a little plant clustering together like this. And yeah, you end up with a whole bunch of little potato plants together, but because there's so much competition, they don't do as well. Each potato plant won't produce as many potatoes. So it's good to come and harvest some of these, and well, I guess in theory it should regrow, but I don't know whether it actually does in the game here. But our family, oh, we love potatoes. This would definitely be our staple food if we were ever to be in a survival situation like this. And it just makes such a great crop to grow. It's easy to cultivate, relatively easy at least. You get quite a good harvest, especially if you remember to actually water the plants, unlike what I usually do. And it can store for quite a bit as well. So it's a great crop to actually grow. And I'm sure later on we can actually get some farming going. There we go, there is farming indeed. Alright, so I'm assuming we can actually grow crops then. It's quite a way in the research tree here though, so yeah, it's going to take a while to get there. Now there's one thing that our little survivors don't have yet, and that would be houses. So we're going to make a whole bunch of floaters here, as soon as we get enough plastics again. Who knew we could run out of plastic? Wow, in an open ocean like this. Now we're just going to scout another area over here. There we go, it has been scouted. And then we're just going to collect some timber over here as well, some wet wood. Alright, there seems to be quite a lot of plastic here to our west, so we're just going to head out in that direction a bit. Alright, and after a bit of salvaging and a bit of construction, a bit of working at the plastic workshop, and at the manual dryer, and at the sawmill, we finally have enough resources to actually build one geo tent. So 2 of our drifters can settle together here into this little tent over here, and then we're going to hopefully make another one soon, and then we're going to have enough houses for all 4 our drifters, at least for now. And as time goes on, we'll build more and more and expand our residential area. Nice thing with these guys over here is that they're going to have an ocean view, which is something people pay a lot of money for. Although I guess in this setting here, a land view would be preferable. And there we go, we've got bouillabaisse and wet feet living in our geo tent over here. Now this may be a good time to also remind you that I have got a Discord for the channel as well, so feel free to pop in over there to chat about ecology and share what interesting things you find around the world, or just, you know, to chat a bit and have some fun. Additionally, I also have started channel memberships to help keep the channel afloat, as it has been a difficult few months, so check that out as well if you'd like to support me a bit more as well, of course, completely voluntary. And as we are building our second tent over here, just some initial thoughts on the game. First of all, I love this. This is a very fun, quite relaxing game, which is something we desperately need in these times, especially now with the festive season upon us and all the chaos that may bring. The art style is lovely, the music is nice and relaxing. It's not too difficult to understand either. It's quite an easy game to understand and to dip your toes into, pardon the pun there. And this setting, I think, is quite unique. I mean, this is a very enjoyable, weird little setting where we've got a post-apocalyptic world, but instead of trying to build your city on rock and roll or any other way, you are trying to build it on the water. And that's just so much fun. So I'm having a blast and looking forward to carrying on with this game next Tuesday. Of course, on Friday, I've got an episode of Enshrouded coming out again as well. And then on Tuesday, we'll be back in FLOTSAM. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me on a little aquatic adventure over here. Hope you had fun. I've had a blast as well. Of course, if you did enjoy the video, please give a nice thumbs up to tell the algorithm to please recommend this video as well and share it with your friends and family. And until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers!